Some people like Joe Hart. I find him a man, if he was in a corner of a pub, I would head for another corner.
Oh no, he's not someone you want to get stuck in a lift with.
No, exactly.
The BBC's news output is seminal to its offer to the public, and it's a pillar stone of our democracy. But it's not why we love the BBC. We love the BBC for other programming. The government is saying we're worried about the status quo because it's literally the Wild West out there. People are now living in their own little echo chambers where they only hear the things that they want to hear. Hello and welcome to Insiders, a podcast all about the world of television with me, Jimmy Mulville.
And me, Peter Fincham.
This is the podcast, as you know by now, about the world of television, the people who love it and want to find out a bit more on what goes on behind the scenes, Peter.
Yes. So what a week, Jimmy. So what's going on? The hottest day possibly ever. We're recording this on Wednesday.
But we're in air condition.
We're in air condition. We're right. Don't worry about it.
I'm going to stay here all day, even after the podcast is finished.
We're going to talk about the World Cup in a minute, but also our next Prime Minister is a man who comes from your city.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but you see...
I'm bringing it up. I'm giving you a chance
I can't tell you how...
It's another win for Liverpool.
Not Liverpool, Everton.
No, Liverpool, the city. Jimmy.
No, forget this. No, it's about he is an Evertonian.
Yeah,
and I'm an Evertonian,
and you come from Liverpool.
And I actually sent him. You know that book I wrote about Everton.
Yes.
So he has a
Did he read it?
One of his people on his campaign came into a book signing I was doing in Liverpool, and I just penned a little message saying, "Dear Andy, being an Everton fan is perfect preparation for becoming Prime Minister because you're no stranger to pain."
Exactly.
What a tough job he's got. But I think he's a great communicator, and I hope, anyway, he's very successful as Prime Minister. I wish him really well.
And he's quite snappy, casual dresser, isn't he? He likes a black T-shirt. And
he's a person.
All those things.
Yeah, he's gone for the Zelensky look.
Exactly.
Anyway,
but also the World Cup. So last night,
because we record this on a Wednesday.
Yeah, we've lived this life, haven't we? England, Ghana. I feel this could have been any time in the last 50 years. Come on, England, do better, score a goal. And it never quite happened. But
I was watching it with two of my sons, and at one point we were all on our iPhones.
Yeah.
Because it was just so boring.
Well, let's have a little chat about the world. But do you want to just run through the menu of things we're going to talk about? Because we've got some more serious stuff.
We've got more serious stuff to talk about.
Stuck into later.
Well, last week the BBC announced they're going to cut 500 jobs. And this is just the beginning of the cuts for the BBC, because over the next few years they're going to lose 4,000 jobs. Yeah. But 5,000 jobs specifically in the news department. So we'll be discussing that. And then there's a new government plan which could push BBC and ITV content higher up your social media platforms. So they'll be insisting, first of all, they're going to invite YouTube and Instagram and all the other things to do it voluntarily, and if that doesn't work, there may be legislation coming down the road, they say.
But the World Cup, we've talked about it before, but I want to ask you, you've been watching a bit of BBC, bit of ITV.
Yeah.
This is a time-honoured battle between the BBC and ITV. Who does it better? Who do you think's doing it better?
Well, I'm afraid I think ITV's flavours are slightly richer. I think the Roy Keanes of this world, and I like Gary Neville. I think he's insightful.
I like Ian Wright.
And Ian Wright, they're kind of
they've got personality.
Yes.
Yeah. They book for personality, and I think that's a very good thing.
Showbiz,
and they've discovered Emma Hayes.
Yes.
Even though they kind of scored a bit of an own goal by putting her in a set that looked surprisingly like a kitchen. And I just love the idea that nobody in any thought said, this might backfire.
Yes.
We put our female pundit in a kitchen.
Why is she in a kitchen?
I don't know why. She was in a kitchen with a blackboard. I mean, this is weird. But
so
they've
they're
actually
stereotyping as a cook and a teacher?
Indeed. But I watched a game the other day where she was one of the pundits. She was sitting between Roy Keane and boy, she held her own. And
she's great,
she's
actually.
A great personality.
One of the people I like on the BBC is Wayne Rooney. I think Wayne
Rooney's good. No, I agree. And of course, anybody, Wayne Rooney's got personality, but also if you've scored 45 goals for England, you've got authority. Yeah. You are somebody. I think he's good. Some people like Joe Hart. I find him a man, if he was in a corner of a pub, I would head for another corner.
Oh, no, he's not someone you want to get stuck in a lift with.
No, exactly.
No, I mean, he's obviously a very nice man, but Yeah, no, you could probably remove one of my kidneys halfway through the conversation.
There's something in the BBC's DNA
Yes.
that is wary of making it too entertaining.
You want to turn it into a place of amusement.
It's sort of a little bit like the difference between Coronation Street and EastEnders traditionally.
Yeah.
Coronation Street's a comedy, and it's full of people being very funny, and EastEnders is addressing
J.B. Priestley
issues.
said it in the 60s, he said, some of the finest comic writing you'll find is in Coronation Street.
Yeah.
And I always say this to Andy Hamilton, my friend who wrote Drop the Dead Donkey and Outnumbered, who said, and he's not an EastEnder, but he's definitely a Londoner. And I said, what is it with EastEnders? The whole thing about chirpy Cockneys and funny Cockneys, no one cracks any jokes in EastEnders.
I know, because it's all about...
leave it, Pat, leave it, he's not worth it.
It's all about issues. But so I do think there's a slight difference there.
Yeah.
I think obviously ITV have gone to New York and have a spectacular backdrop, and we all know...
Waste the money?
The BBC... No, I'm coming to this. The BBC's backdrop is a virtual backdrop. I believe they will go there for the knockout stages, but you know, that's sort of turning up a little bit too late. But to that point about money, that I think this is... I've never seen this point made. My point would be this, sort of why are they competing at all? Because they don't share games until the final, but they're sharing a competition. But unless I'm wrong, and correct me if I am wrong here, you will not hear a mention in the BBC coverage of the fact that ITV have got a big game tomorrow night, nor vice versa. Ultimately, that dates back to the days when there were only two shows in town, ITV and BBC. Because it's like they're still fighting that war. They're still fighting the Second World War, if you like. Yeah. But that's not the reality of television today. The reality is that in a hugely kind of competitive world with streamers here and all sorts of things,
I agree.
These are the only two members of a very small club. They're sharing the competition. Frankly, they could share a studio. Who would care?
They could share presenters.
They just happened to be on ITV one night and the BBC the other night for reasons that we've discussed before. And why, in a way, are they locked into this competition to get the better view of New York or whatever? They could save themselves money and give us, if you like, a more harmonised kind of style of presenting the whole thing by kind of just doing it together. And then they could do the obvious thing, which is to say on Thursday night, the game between, I don't know, Morocco and Iran or something is on ITV. But if you want to watch the game between Germany and somebody tomorrow night, it's on the BBC. They could actually mention each other. Essentially, I think, and I've read this in the press, it is a competition still between ITV and BBC. It matters a lot to them.
Yeah.
It matters, the BBC Sports Department.
But you're right, they're fighting the wrong war because
they're sort of fighting the wrong war.
Because the war is over and they lost. And
well, no, the war. Ironically, they've still won this war because it's a listed event. They've got it. It's something that you can't see on Sky, you can't see on TNT.
Well, Sky are about to own ITV.
In 4 years' time, who knows how the world would change further. But the point about a listed event is not whether you're owned by Comcast or Sky. It's about whether you're free to air. The World Cup is not behind a paywall. So we are treated, you might say, to, it's 104 games.
Yeah.
You want to stay up all through the night. By the time this goes out, by the way,
what's the latest you've
Scotland
stayed
have
up?
beaten Brazil, won't we?
We'll
know, yes. Well, shall I just restate that? By the time this goes out, we'll know that sadly Scotland are on their way home again.
You might be eating your words because I tell you, if Scotland only get beat 1-0.
Oh, this is the can technically qualify.
They could technically qualify.
If they only get beaten 1-0.
If they get beaten 1-0 and there's an R in the month.
Good luck there. It's against Brazil, isn't it?
It's against Brazil. And of course they played against Brazil in 1998 and they lost. It was a set piece and an own goal. Okay. Scotland scored an own goal. It's a kind of metaphor for Peter Murrell and Nicola.
That's a whole other story. We can't go. That's not our story.
No, because that's definitely the rest is politics.
But it is a great festival of
talking
football.
About the rest is, Peter, have you been glued to the rest is football?
I haven't. Do you want to give us a resume?
I haven't actually.
I'm aware of this because we are a podcast, and so should we be
but
reviewing other podcasts?
They're in a different league to us.
They've got different money to us, that's for sure.
They do.
They've got a bigger contract with Netflix than we'll ever get.
They do their own adverts, and we have not done an advert yet.
We've made it perfect.
And we've said
we're willing to.
Edinburgh Woolen Mill, we're open to offers.
Not today.
Not today. God, you don't want to wear your woolies. You're not going to sell any woolies today up there in Edinburgh.
By the way, that's another story. We got this story on the list that the Edinburgh Television Festival is moving to Manchester.
I know.
Shall we just quickly talk about that? That's a hell of a thing, isn't it?
Well, I would imagine the people in Edinburgh aren't very happy about it, although they have the festival and they have the Fringe.
So much going on. I mean, they've got the festival going on, the Fringe going on. I always thought it was slightly strange that in among all this, they sort of, as it were, plant the television festival, using up hotel rooms,
yeah,
and so personally, I saw this was announced yesterday, and I saw our good friend, or your good friend, John Thodey from Avalon, came out quite strongly against it, saying this is a bad mistake.
Why is that, do you think?
Well, because he's got comedians playing in the Fringe, and he wants to get television executives to go.
He's saying he's driven by a self-interest in this. I have to stand up to my old
I'm
friend John Thodey.
He's running a business, and
he's
good luck to him.
He's the most altruistic man I know.
Good luck to him. But he's come out saying it's a bad thing. I'm going to be honest. I feel completely neutral about it. I don't. No. I mean, you know, what is the magic of Edinburgh? Manchester, much in the news at the moment, is a perfectly good. I believe Liverpool competed for it as well. They did the thing like the City of Culture does. They said, "Do you want to be the hosts of the annual television festival?" I doubt if it's quite up there with "Do you want to get the Olympics?" But I believe Liverpool put a bid in.
Liverpool did, and I know the people who put the bid in with the same.
Where did they go wrong? Where did they go wrong?
They didn't go wrong at all. It's just that I think this is sort of endemic, really. Is
it possibly the BBC's depiction of Liverpool as a hotbed of cocaine?
Triggers me a little bit. Yeah.
Well, the thing is that therefore because they didn't want television executives to be exposed to the danger of cocaine dealers.
Oh yes. You can't move for sweaty scousers shoving bags of cocaine.
Wayne Garvey saying,
"Oh yes,
do you want a quick line?"
Oh no, he'd be pivoting back to the station and getting on his personal train back to Sony. No, the thing is that, to be serious for a second, the BBC's putting forward its charter renewal proposal. And Liverpool's not mentioned in it. Birmingham's mentioned in it. North East mentioned in it. Northern Ireland, Manchester's mentioned in it. But Liverpool is not mentioned in it. And Liverpool is the most filmed city outside of London. And I can reveal that the BBC have just commissioned Poirot, which is going to be produced by Mammoth.
Yes, my friend Damien Timmer. I'm having a cup of tea with him this afternoon.
Are you? You live the life. Is Joe Hart joining you?
I believe he's got some good proposals for dramas.
So here's my serious point, is that you've got this city that is the most filmed city outside of London. It is filmed, it's used by, the people who shot Batman. It's full. Its studios are full.
This is not mentioned in the charter renewal proposal. But is that a sin of omission, or is that deliberate, or did they just not think about it?
But here's my point: is the BBC have just commissioned a 3-series deal, which not even Peaky Blinders got that from the get-go. They're going to do young Poirot, and for the next how many years?
You spin it up for years.
It's going to be in Liverpool, and you would think that at that point the BBC would say, "Well, spending all this money. It's going to be shot in Liverpool. We should be investing more in the infrastructure of Liverpool."
Is it?
Because let's face it, Salford.
Yeah.
The media city is a white elephant,
and there's a BBC kind of building in Birmingham, and there certainly are in Glasgow, Cardiff, and Belfast, because those are nations.
Yeah.
Is there a big BBC base in Liverpool? Maybe that's the reason. Yeah.
There's BBC Merseyside, which is a very fine local radio station.
Yeah. Well, that'll be the reason then, won't they? They don't have such a big presence in Liverpool, but they don't in Leeds. They don't have. I mean, Newcastle. There's quite a few.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is
that
the BBC shoot a lot of their shows in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And they seem to just think, oh well, it's like part of Manchester, which is, of course, is quite offensive.
Yes.
To those of us who are not from Manchester.
Yes.
Anyway, that's my personal beef.
I
think the BBC should wake up and smell the coffee again.
So we're going to move on to talk about the BBC. Before we do you think we should have a hydration break?
I think we're halfway through. Yeah, I think it's a standard rule now across all podcasts.
Exactly.
Whether it's raining or sunny or
it's not particularly warm in the studio.
I feel a bit dehydrated.
Well, while you're having a glass of water, I will. I'll set the scene for this. So the BBC have announced 550 job cuts as the first part of a £500 million savings plan. Director General Matt Britton said the savings are aimed at delivering about 160 million of the overall 500 million target, which will eventually see a reduction of 1,800 to 2,000 jobs. Wow. BBC currently employ around 21,500 full-time employees. Now, we have sat here on this podcast and said one thing that is very difficult to do at the BBC, and some Director Generals haven't really made much inroad into the size of the staff. So it's hard to say this is a bad thing, because clearly organisations need to be lean and mean and make sure they're not...
Well, commercial businesses do it all the time.
They do it all the time because commercial logic sort of forces them to do it.
Well, the costs have to be driven by the activity in the business.
Yes, but the effect of this plan is a reduction of 100 to 150 hours of originated programmes across all commissioning genres by the end of the 27-8 financial years. So that's 3 hours a week.
Not just TV, though, is it?
No, and you've got a lot of different networks, channels out there. You've got a lot of different genres. You could argue that you might hardly notice that, depending on what you watch. Or you could argue it's big.
Well, they're going to cut specific news programmes, like The World Tonight will end. There'll be the number of permanent presenters on the Today programme will be reduced from 5 to 4.
Yes.
That's a bit of a game, isn't it? They're going to play over there. So are they going to draw straws with a single anchor on Saturdays? That'll be just one person doing that. BBC One's breakfast will no longer be shown on Sunday mornings. I don't know how I'm going to get through the day.
Well, no, but I mean, to sort of talk about that for a moment.
Yeah.
We're old enough to remember a world before breakfast television.
Yes, we just stay in bed.
So breakfast television, dates back, I'm guessing, to the 80s? It started,
Frank
ITV
Boff
skin ahead of the BBC, or was it vice versa?
Then we had Frank Boff and Selena
TVAM,
Scott.
the famous Five, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There is no law that says there must be a breakfast programme every day of the week. We talked about this, I think, last week. Channel 4 did the Big Breakfast, kind of rather iconic breakfast
Brilliant
programme.
show.
When it kind of finally petered out, they didn't replace it. They don't have a breakfast show. To go back literally to a few minutes ago when we were talking about ITV and the BBC, do you need all the terrestrials to be competing in all slots in the same way?
Okay.
Arguably, you don't.
Right. Well,
and maybe this is a sign that what we all know, which is a move from linear schedules to streaming, has completely revolutionised viewing habits. It will have an effect on the, if you like, the obligation that broadcasters feel to fill every slot in their schedule.
Well, I'm going to say something controversial now, which I don't normally do on this podcast, but I think it's just too much news on the BBC. Generally, I don't need 2 news bulletins on the linear channel, one at 6 and one at 9. If you haven't got the news by...
There isn't, it's at 10, not 9.
At 10, sorry. Yeah. It's
that was about 1985.
That was the last time I watched the news, Peter. Producing a show like Have I Got News For You, you have enough of it. But, I just think that these days, as you say, BBC's got a brilliant news service online, which is there, and it updates you and it notifies you. But so why do you need this 24-hour news?
Hang on. So 24-hour news is another thing again.
But compared to Sky News, it's rather embarrassing.
Absolutely. I remember when I joined the BBC, which is now 20 years ago, the head of news came to see me, introduced himself, a nice man called Peter Horrocks, and he said, good luck in the new job. I won't be seeing you very often. I said, all right, fine. I've got plenty of other things to do. He said, because news on the main channel, that's yesterday. That's not really important anymore. Everything is about 24-hour news.
Oh, God.
He was wrong because BBC rolling 24-hour news, except when something huge happened, like
who watches it?
Cataclysmic event. Nobody watched it. Nobody watched it.
Just the mums and dads of the presenters. That's
it. Actually, viewing levels to the bulletins have remained surprisingly robust. That's still how millions of people get their news. But to just picking up your point, if you do an analysis of news, there's more of it than there's ever been. Only a few years ago, ITV doubled the length of their early evening news. And we know what's driving that. Money, because it's a cheap thing
show.
to do.
Yeah.
If you remember, whenever it was, maybe at the beginning of the 80s, there was an iconic programme produced by a friend of ours called Not the 9 O'Clock News. It ran for 25 minutes. Why did it run for 25 minutes? Because that's how long the BBC News was. It wasn't even half an hour in those days. And they got, do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
News has crept, it's spread. That's partly because, as I say, it's actually quite a cheap way of filling up the schedule. But I wouldn't disagree with you. Maybe there's too much news.
I think the quality of the news...
We can all get it online anyway.
Yeah, but I think the quality of the news is... the BBC's news coverage is brilliant, and I think they are the most impartial news deliverer in the world, and that needs to be protected. I'm not having a go at that. I think it's ubiquitous. And when you walk into New Broadcasting House, there in front of you is a massive newsroom,
yes,
which I kind of find quite offensive, to be honest. Because the BBC's news output is seminal to its offer to the public, and it's a pillarstone of our democracy. But it's not why we love the BBC. It's a we love the BBC for other programming. We need to know what's going on in the world, but we don't need to be told again and again what's going on. I walk my dogs at night and I listen to The World Tonight. After 5 minutes,
you won't be able to do that. That's about to end.
I know. I said, but I've heard it all before. I know
well,
what the news is.
I'm often sitting with my father-in-law, who's an elderly gent, and he will have watched, let's say, the 6 o'clock news, and then 45 minutes later he'll say, let's watch the Channel 4 news at 7 o'clock.
Well, that's so he can get irritated.
But I will say, hang on a minute, and I have a quick look at my phone and say, don't worry, nothing's happened. No. Believe me, nothing's happened since 6 o'clock. But you just mentioned abroad, so they've also said there will be more of an international focus to the news channel, building on the growth in viewers outside the UK. This is an interesting point. Because
soft power.
But the viewers outside the UK don't pay licence fees, do they? And I don't quite understand, where does that cross over with the world service?
Well, more and more viewers inside the UK aren't paying a licence fee.
That's another issue. But where does that cross over with the world service, which is a separate service that's traditionally used to be funded separately by the government? Is it really the BBC's job to be building I absolutely see how the BBC loves the idea that it has hit dramas, hit entertainment that conquer the world. That's a fantastic thing for the BBC. But surely its news is primarily aimed at the UK audience, and its great value is its impartiality. In a partisan world, impartiality becomes ever more important. And in a way, that's part of the contract that says this is why you pay for your licence fee.
I think it's an odd thing as well. Like, will it mean that editorial meetings in the morning, when they're trying to work out the running order for the evening bulletin, the editor says, "Look, I just want something that's going to attract the Americans a bit more."
Yeah.
Or I remember.
So do you ever watch the weather when you're watching the abroad in a hotel? You watch the BBC weather, and they cover a whole continent. They sort of go, Africa, showers, and then in Asia it'll be warm,
Middle East hot.
But so, what do we think? Is this
inevitable?
Prudent, inevitable, getting your house in order? You've got charter renewal in 2027. You've got to get your house in order. If you're Matt Britton, you've got to say to Lisa Nandy, if she's still Culture Secretary or whoever will be, you've got to say, we've been slimming the place down, making it more lean and mean. Please give us a new charter. Is that what this is about? Or is it also about, if you want to be more apocalyptic about it, is it more about the unsustainability of a large organisation like the BBC, funded publicly via a mechanism like the licence fee, that's going to get harder and harder, and until they come up with a new funding mechanism, there's a sword will be hanging over them.
Well, Matt Britton has said recently, the question I'm asking everybody here is, what would a BBC that you set up today look like? So clearly, he's going to look at the organisation from the outside, thinking, do we need to do this? Should we be doing that? So there are going to be big changes, I think, and I think it'll be.
That sounds like the question that some moderator asked at the beginning of a corporate away day. I mean, it sounds like a clever
No, they
question.
don't do. No. And on corporate away day, they said, if you were a colour,
what colour would you be?
What colour would you be?
Use. That's what I would say. I'm sick of the idea.
Scarlet with rage.
I'm already sick of this session.
Yeah. So here's another story, Peter, which is a BBC-related story. Really.
Yeah.
The government have released a green paper for public service broadcaster prominence on social media.
Have you read it?
So, no. What is a green paper?
Nobody reads them.
A green paper is what you get before a white paper.
Yes.
And a white paper is just what you have before you make it a brown paper. A green paper is an official consultation document issued by the UK government. God help us. It outlines early stage policy ideas, explores alternative options, and invites feedback from the public, Parliament, and industry stakeholders before any final legislative decisions are made. I have to say, when you read that out, you think, God, the kind of bureaucracy that is in our way of doing anything is just astonishing. Anyway, they have a green paper. Everybody pitches in with their views. And what they're saying is, they're suggesting that, YouTube, TikTok, other major video sharing platforms would be invited to carry public service content from BBC ITV and Channel 4 and Paramount-owned Channel 5 more prominently under the new legislation being drawn up by the UK government. What does that mean?
Well, what do you mean? What does invited?
How do they do that?
Well, invited, they're not going to do it by invitation, are they? They're going to do it if you legislate for them to do it.
I would think so.
And they're presumably going to resist it, because why wouldn't they? But I mean, I can see a logic of this. You would need, I suppose, to legislate saying the reason that this has some merit is because it's leading your users to impartial,
especially younger people.
Yeah, to impartial.
It's a great move.
Say truth-based news.
Yes,
but in order to do that, you've got to get YouTube, TikTok, and the rest of them to accept that that's not what they do anyway. And of course, they're very resistant to the idea that they're awash with fake news and stuff that bears no relation to reality. It feels like, I don't know, I wouldn't want to be in this meeting. It feels like a really it's not a meeting. Let's just stick with YouTube, the dominant platform of the modern age and possibly for many years to come. It's not a meeting YouTube are particularly keen to come to, is it?
No.
The government's got to force them to come to it and then say this has merit, and if you don't do it willingly, we may force you to do it. And there's a sort of parallel here with a battle that was played out years and years ago, which was on the Sky platform. How prominent are BBC One, ITV One, BBC Two, Channel 4? And my memory is that Sky wanted to relegate them further down the listings and put at the top, whatever, Sky One or, Sky Atlantic and so on. But although, I can't actually remember, were they forced not to do that? They realised that people via Sky were watching BBC One more than they were watching Sky One.
Yeah.
So it was self-interest that said we should make it very prominent.
Yeah, it's the
and I think that battle is lost and won, and I don't think there's anybody suggesting that Sky, the menu on Sky, all those numbers that go all the way down to the wine channel or whatever. I don't think anybody's suggesting change.
The dog channel.
Is there a dog channel?
Yeah, you put on music to soothe your dog.
Okay.
Just before. Well, I need to do that after my dog's listened to the World Tonight. He's very stressed.
So this feels like another version of that.
Yes.
To me, I don't know, because I haven't read the green paper, and I don't claim to be an expert in.
It's a great thing to read in bed, because you're off in within minutes.
While you're walking the dog, listening to the World Tonight,
Yeah.
You could read the.
Well, can I tell you what the Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy said?
Yes. She's going to have more to say about it than I.
In favour of
is
this.
what I feel.
She says it is vital, I'm doing an impersonation of it now, it is vital that we make sure that people have better access to trusted and accurate news, and that our regulated public service media is seen and heard in the fierce battle against mis- and disinformation. As the media landscape moves further and further online, away from traditional broadcasting, we must act and so that the world-leading television sector continues to thrive and top-quality UK content keeps being produced.
I mean, there's an assumption in there which some people would doubt.
Yes.
Which is that let's just stick with the BBC, that what you get from the BBC is pure impartiality.
Yes.
Because some people think it's not that at all, and that it has a liberal bias and a metropolitan bias.
Fake news.
If you're Nigel Farage, who's been on the airwaves recently, have you heard any of these interviews with Nigel Farage?
Farage, I'm calling him.
I call him
Nigel Farage.
Where he's been challenged with this fact that this bloke, I can't remember where he's from. Is he from Thailand or something? Gave him £5 million.
His name is Harborne, I think.
Well, in a way,
he's now got a Thai name.
It's the amount of money rather than who he is. £5 million, and Nigel Farage sort of says nothing to see here.
He said it's nothing to do with the public.
Nobody's interested in this. Yeah.
As a public figure, it's nothing to do with the public that I've trousered £5 million from this
and given several contradictory versions of what I'm doing with it. But so if you're Nigel Farage, as you choose to call him, and even more Rupert Lowe, the Restore guy, I do think somebody's got to start another party. That you've got Reform, then you go further right wing and you get to Restore. There must be one beyond that, so that so ever ending like satellites around a star. You can end up with, do you know what I mean? You can end up with a whole series of right-wing party until you get to some one bonkers bloke who lives in Tunbridge Wells, who's a retired stockbroker.
He's from the Fuckham Party.
And he finds Restore a little bit wishy-washy.
Yeah, really liberal.
Quite right-wing enough.
Yeah.
So let's watch that space. So I hear what Lisa Nandy is saying.
But you're right, is that there are people out there who say BBC is not, I mean, certainly over certain issues, like for example, Gaza and stuff.
Yes.
Reputable newspapers have called out the BBC on being inaccurate in its reporting. But Jim, how would it literally work? Because when you click onto YouTube, what you get is not YouTube's front page. You get it geared to your tastes. And the algorithm.
So you get the algorithm sends you more of what you already watch.
I don't know how you do this technically, Pete. You're asking the wrong person.
No, sure. But I'm saying, are you saying before you get through to this regurgitation of your own tastes, sort of endless, for me, documentaries about the Beatles or something, before you get to that, you get the BBC front page news? That seems so unlikely. That
Ofcom says that the public service content should be the most prominent result when it is the most relevant response to a user search and should be clearly attributed to the relevant PSP
Well, that's
player.
slightly different. That sounds like a bit like Google, where, if you ask Google a question, has Keir Starmer resigned or whatever, Google will give you answers and they'll be listed in an order which is to do with prominence and partly it's commercial because it's people who paid to be at the top of the list, and partly it'll be sort of algorithm based. But I do think it's a slightly different thing on YouTube.
Well, you're not going to be surprised here, but the Senior Director of Government Affairs and Public Policy for YouTube in Europe, David Wheeldon, said, "The UK creator economy is a global success story because of one simple idea. On YouTube, viewers decide what they want to watch. Videos become popular because they connect with their audience, not because we are required to prioritize them. That's not fair on users, creators, or the wider journalism ecosystem."
Well, that doesn't quite address the issue, does it? Because that doesn't address the issues of whether viewers are getting the truth, which is a slightly different issue.
That's right. No, he's saying that the status quo is fine, and what the government is saying, we're worried about the status quo because it's literally the Wild West out there. And so that's what you're saying, is that people are now living in their own little echo chambers where they only hear the things that they want to hear. Of course, the BBC and YouTube have signed a partnership deal, haven't they? It was announced in January.
Yeah, but that's slightly different.
And that's for content.
Yeah.
But they now have a relationship.
Yes.
So they're now talking. They're now in business together. So, this might make would the green paper help that? Would it hinder that? Would it get in the way of that? Would it cause a bone of contention between them? I don't know. This is a bit kind of culture war-y, isn't it? Because they've also now, the government made this announcement before Keir Starmer, kind of was shown the door, banning social media for under 16s in the UK.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, well, good luck with that as well, because that's quite hard.
Well, that's enforce. A bit. Maybe we should come to that in a future episode. That's a big issue. It's in Australia, isn't it, that it's banned for under 16s?
Yep.
And it'd be interesting to know. We could perhaps look into this. How well is that going in Australia? How practical is it? Will it work and so on? And can you ban 16-year-olds from social media, the harmful side of social media? Being connected, being on the internet, also has all sorts of social benefits, which you have to weigh up against the harms that come with it.
And if you want more,
let's
and if you want more information about this, I would just Google it.
That's all for this week. If there's anything about the world of TV you'd like us to discuss, send your questions our way. We would love to hear from you.
You can leave us a comment, send us an email, or get in touch via our socials. All the info's in the description.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please do give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and make sure you're following the podcast wherever you're watching or listening to it now.
Come on, England.
Can we beat Panama?
I don't know.
Oh.
By
the time we're here next week, we'll know the answer.
Yeah.